Did you know that one of the most intense rivalries in the UFC flyweight division is about to explode? Brandon Royval, the unpredictable raw dog himself, is stepping into the octagon once again. But this time, it's not just another fight. It's personal, it's strategic, and it might just decide the next phase of the 125-pound division. Watch till the end, because number one on our list of fight dynamics will absolutely shock you. We're breaking down every angle from career stats to recent 2025 updates, and trust me, there's a lot more going on than just punches and take. Before we dive into the actual face-off, let's talk about Brandon Roy. Born and raised in Denver, Colorado, Royval made his UFC debut in 2020 after narrowly losing a title shot Alexander Pantoja in late 2024. Royval is out for redemption. The UFC knew they had something special, and what better way to test that potential than against ROYVAL? You get one of the most stylistically intriguing fights of 2025. Just striker versus grappler, improvisation versus precision. And both men have proven they can win in either domain. Think GSP versus BJ Penn, or Khabib versus G. Every second of this bout will test who can impose their rhythm and who breaks under pressure. And that brings us to his newest opponent on Unstoppable Force, named Van. He's calm, technical, and almost surgical in his approach. He'll throw spinning elbows in clinches and flying knees in transitions. Shut down Royval's unorthodox entries with smart footwork and feints. If he can get Royval on his back foot, Van can use his grappling to control and potentially finish the fight. His striking accuracy hovers around 37%, but he lands over 3.5 strikes per minute. Van will keep the center of the cage and aim to take Royval's aback at the first opportunity. One mistake from either man could spell lights out. Sources close to his camp say this is the most focused version of Royval we've ever seen. He's brought in BJJ black belts and elite strikers to mimic Van's measured approach. Word is they've got a few surprises up their sleeve. Brandon Moreno recently tweeted, "This one's a 50-50, it's war. Don't blink." Sean O'Malley called Van the dark horse of the division, while Michael Bisping believes Royval will shock the world with a flying submission. Create chaos, mix in unpredictable strikes, and avoid letting Van settle into a rhythm. But the real hardcore fans know records don't matter when the cage door shuts. What matters is grit, timing, and execution. His team is incredibly tight-lipped, but leaks suggest he is focusing on wrestling defense and pressure, striking to deal with Royval's wildness. Drama, skill, and stakes all in one. He lands them at odd angles and has knocked opponents silly before they even realized what hit them. If Van ducks at the wrong time, it's lights out. The fight is rumored to take place in Las Vegas, where Royval has experience fighting in hypersharp environments. That could give him a slight cardio edge if it goes to the 4th or 5th round. Alexander Pantoja still holds the title but has faced recent criticism for pulling out of a title defense earlier this year due to injury. He doesn't just go for one move. He flows from triangle to armbar to rear naked choke like water. Royval has good BJJ, but Van's smooth transitions could catch even a black belt slipping. The top 5 is stacked. Amir Albazi, Muhammad Mokaev, Brandon Moreno, now Tatsuro Van are all circling the gold. Royval's best chance is to break Van's timing with constant movement and force scrambles where Van can control positioning. That raises the stakes dramatically for this bout. It's not just a fight, it's a title eliminator. He absorbs a Latamos 4.5 per minute, but that's because he welcomes firefights. An early knockdown or scramble could swing momentum in his favor. Because whether it is Van's perfect record or Royval's comeback saga, this is a fight for the ages. We're covering every major UFC event, fighter analysis, and more from underdogs to future champions. But if Van survives the storm and keeps Royval at distance, he likely wins on points or even gets a submission. Some say Royval already earned it with his war against Moreno in early 2025. Others claim Van is the future and must be fast. The octagon will decide. Van, however, is a problem solver. He downloads opponents quickly, calculates patterns, and adapts on the fly, or an all-out brawl. His game is tight, and his decision-making is almost never rushed. But where Van really shines is on the ground. His submission rate is 2.3 per 15 minutes, one of the highest in the flyweight division in 2025. Unlike Roy, Van doesn't welcome chaos, he eliminates it. His grappling is clean, his striking is precise, and his cage control is elite. Right off the bat, fans were hooked by his wild fighting style, creative, unpredictable, and dangerously aggressive. While still fairly new to the UFC, Van has been climbing the ranks like wildfire. Van, despite his calm demeanor, can go 5 rounds without breaking rhythm. It's hard to call a favorite based on stats alone. This one comes down to moments. Originally from Okinawa, Japan, Van brought an undefeated record into the UFC. And in 2025, that record still stands. He fights like every second counts, and that's because to him, it really does. Royval has trained out of Factory X Muay Thai, and you can see the influence in every spinning elbow and dynamic transition. What sets him apart? It's not just technique, it's the chaos. Royval thrives in scrambles, dragging opponents into high-risk scenarios where only he knows the rules. In short, you don't fight Royval, you survive him. In 2024, ROYVAL continued his surge toward the title with back-to-back wins, but now in 2025, things are different. Let's talk about the other side of this explosive matchup, popularly nicknamed Van by fans due to his stealthy, almost ninja-like fighting approach. At just 25 years old, Van has displayed a fight IQ that's far beyond his years. In his most recent bout in March 2025, Van dominated Matheus Nicolau with a second-round submission that had the MMA world buzzing. So, what happens when you put a chaos engine like ROYVAL against a control master like Van? ROYVAL's wild movement and unorthodox attacks often lead to unpredictable knockdowns or scrambles. Fans are already comparing this matchup to classic chess versus checkers fights in MMA history. Let's break down the numbers. Brandon ROYVAL enters this fight with a professional record of 17 wins and 7 losses. Van, meanwhile, comes in undefeated at 16-0. His strike accuracy is a crisp 48%, and he absorbs less than 2.5 strikes per minute. Cardio-wise, both are monsters. ROYVAL has gone the distance in wars and never stops pushing the pace. For ROYVAL to win, he needs to drag Van into the deep end early. Van, on the other hand, needs to stay disciplined. Stick to the basics. Expect ROYVAL to throw wild combos and look for flying submissions. The UFC flyweight division in 2025 is on fire. Dana White recently hinted in an interview that the winner of ROYVAL versus Van will likely get the next title shot, especially if Pantoja returns in October 2025 as planned. And let's not forget the fans. The MMA community has been divided on who deserves the shot more. ROYVAL has been training harder than ever at Factory X in Colorado. Van, meanwhile, has been locked in a closed camp in Japan with top-level grapplers and kickboxers. Both camps are betting on different philosophies. One is embracing unpredictability, the other mastering control. When they collide, fans may witness a technical war. Social media is buzzing with predictions. UFC fighters have weighed in too. Fans on Reddit and Twitter are split. Polls show a 52% edge for Van, mostly due to his undefeated record. And if you've followed ROYVAL long enough, you know he doesn't go down easy. This one is a fan's dream. Here's where things get wild. There are X factors in this fight that most fans overlook. First, ROYVAL's flying knees. Second, Van's submission chains. Third, the altitude. Alright, so who takes it? If ROYVAL can bring chaos early and get Van uncomfortable, he has a real shot. Our final prediction. This fight goes the distance. A razor-close decision. And the winner will be the fans. So, who do you think wins? Drop your predictions in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a deep dive like this again.